This is another screencast that's going to help you study for the prepositional phrases quiz that we're going to take or retake next Wednesday. The strategy we talked about last time was to always stop and think before you start working on what does a prepositional phrase look like. We have formulas that we talked about in class. A prepositional phrase equals a preposition, which is one of the words that we memorized on our list, plus some modifiers, which can or cannot be there. They don't have to be there, but what we do have to have is a noun or a pronoun at the end, and absolutely not are we allowed to have any verbs in there. The next thing we looked at was an infinitive, and we look at these with prepositions because they're easily confused. They start with the word to, which makes it look like it could be a preposition, to the store. The problem is that they have a verb after them. To run, to play, to hit, and so when there's a verb there, it's no longer a prepositional phrase. We call it an infinitive. And then for adverbs, the way that we've noticed adverbs is that they look like prepositions, but the problem is there's no noun after them. They're used by themselves. So an adverb will be by itself, and that's how we recognize those. So all I did here was I went to Google and just found an article that I thought was kind of interesting. I copied and pasted it into a document. Now underneath here I also have my list of prepositions, so while you're working on this you may want to have your notebook out in front of you. What I think might be a good idea is to try it once with your prepositions list and then do it again by hiding it. So I'm going to hide it because I feel at this point we really should be at a point where we're starting to recognize them. And I'm going to get my highlighter out here in case I find any prepositional phrases. And I'm just going to start with the first sentence. Pegasus was an immortal winged horse which sprang forth from the neck of Medusa when she was beheaded by the hero Perseus. So looking in this sentence, I want to see, are there any prepositional phrases, any infinitives, or any adverbs? So I see the preposition from, and I look after it to see is there a noun, from the neck, and so I'm going to highlight that as a prepositional phrase. I see another preposition, by. By what? By the hero. And then I see one more preposition here, of. Of what? Of Medusa. Pegasus was tamed by Bellerophon, a Corinthian hero who rode into battle against the fire-breathing chimera. Looking for some prepositions, I see against the fire-breathing chimera. I see into battle. And I see by Bellerophon. Later, after the hero attempted to fly to heaven, the gods caused the horse to buck, throwing him back down to earth. So I start here, I see after. The problem here is after the hero. If I take that out of there, I'm left with a sentence that says, attempted to fly to heaven. So in this case, we haven't really talked about these yet, but this is going to be used in a different way that we haven't talked about called a dependent clause. And when we get to those, here's how I'm going to have you label them. Oops. After the hero attempted. So we've got a subject and a verb there. That's not going to work. I see to over here, so I know that when I see to, I have to stop and think, is it followed by a noun or is it followed by a verb? Fly. So now I have to think, am I talking about a fly that buzzes around your head, or am I talking about the action of flying, which is what it's talking about, to fly? So we've talked about putting brackets around them as we've done them in class together. Now I see to again, so I have to think, is to being used as a preposition? Is it followed by a noun or is it a verb? Heaven. I can't heaven, that's not an action, so this must be a prepositional phrase, to heaven. And I see yet again another to buck. Is it talking about the action of bucking? It's talking about a horse. So I've got an infinitive, to buck. And then you would think that I planned finding this sentence out, but I didn't because I see one more to in this sentence. So I have to think about, is earth a noun or a verb? And earth is a noun, so that's a prepositional phrase. Now I do see one more word in here that looks like a preposition. It's not to, it's the word down. And down doesn't have a noun after it. We can't say down to. That's not one of our prepositions. When I look at my list, I don't have that as a group. I have according to or in addition to, but not down to. So down by itself is going to be an adverb. Let's see how good I can write with my mouse here. So down is an adverb, and to earth is the prepositional phrase. Pegasus continued to wing its way to heaven, where it took a place in the stables of Zeus. So I see a couple to's here. I need to think, is to being used as a verb, to wing, which it sounds like it is. Pegasus continued to wing its way to heaven, which sounds like it means to fly its way to heaven. The author's just using a different word to make that image. So to wing is an infinitive. I see another to. We've already determined that you can't to heaven, so that must be a prepositional phrase. I see in as a preposition, in the stables, and of as a preposition, of Zeus. Okay, so what you could do is go find, since if you're enjoying the studies of Greek mythology, just go Google a character in Greek mythology that you think you'd be interested in learning about. Copy and paste a paragraph or two into a Word document and go through and get your prepositions list out and practice it. If you want to bring it into class, I'll grade it for you.